to welcome everyone to the Animal Bonds Zoom call. And last week we had a really wonderful discussion about AI, right? We had lots of pros and cons. And in fact, I was just talking to my business partner today, and he said, "Have you heard about this new AI thing? It's so scary." So we started that whole conversation. But, you know, Elena brought up some really great points. And thank you so much for that article, Elena. That was so good about veganism and advocacy and using AI, because it kind of covered those same points. Like, there's good, there's bad. Be careful how you use it. So really wonderful discussions. For Louise and Susan, what we usually do is we have a topic and we talk about it. And you can use the chat. We encourage everyone to use the chat. And if everyone wants to just kind of use it today and say hi and say where you're from, that would be great. But we try to use the chat, but we also would love to see you on camera if you can. And if you can't, no big deal. It's not a problem. We'll usually mute everyone during the meeting.
Hi. Yeah, my.
Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I volunteer at a shelter, and I'm particularly concerned about helping animals who are in that kind of a traumatic position.
Wonderful.
I don't know. I don't know if this pertains to that. If that's something you cover.
Yep. We are going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about trauma in general, but we can talk specifically about shelter animals. A lot of us here have experience with that. So you'll get a lot of input on things that we do to help ease trauma in shelter animals. I mean, obviously, when there are a lot of them coming in at once, it's a lot harder when you're one person. But there's lots of things you can do both in the shelter and outside of the shelter to start to bring in some peace. But thank you so much for speaking up and for sharing that, because we are going to talk about that.
Okay. And so how long do you think the webinar is going to run?
The meeting runs about an hour, but they're all recorded and you can listen in.
Okay. And I'm going to shut my camera off because I'm multitasking here until
no worries at all.
Okay.
No worries at all.
Thank you.
It's pretty casual, and so don't even worry. And so we still have people coming. I'm just going to mute everyone. So, and definitely use the chat. As I said, if you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand, or if you know how to use the raise hand emoji, you can do that. And we try to get to everyone in the call. And so let's get started. So we've talked about this topic before about trauma, but it's always good to revisit it. Actually, everything we talk about, our solution is pretty much the same, but it bears repeating because we forget, we get overwhelmed, and it's hard for us to remember these simple little tools that we have. Okay, so sorry, just a sec. Okay, so Jamie's trying to get on, but she can't. She's trying to get on with a different browser, and not sure that's so strange. So, all right, but we will continue. So we're talking about trauma. Before we even talk about trauma for animals, let's talk about trauma with people, right? I went through a really bad divorce, and it was, here, let me turn off my music. Sorry about that. And when I went through this divorce, there was a lot of traumatic things that happened prior to the divorce and during the separation and everything. It was really just something I wouldn't wish on anyone. And a lot of it had to do with mental health. And so when I was going through that was in 2014. So I had been practicing animal Reiki and meditation for, at that point, 7 years. And what happened when all of this came down was I really turned to my meditation practice. And I'm not talking about I sat and I meditated for 30 minutes or an hour. I didn't have that kind of bandwidth. I didn't have that kind of space. What I did was I did the precepts. I did the hara breathing, which we're going to practice today. And I did the all is well mantra, because that is all I had the capacity for.
But the beautiful thing about this practice, this community, when you study with the Let Animals Lead, practitioners and teachers, is that you have people who can hold space. And that's really the power of our practice, is that we're able to hold space. Sandra and Cherise, thank you so much. And Diane and Wilma, thank you so much for joining us. I just wanted to say shout out really fast. And Lisa too. Thank you. Lisa's got her little friend with her. We always love that. So the power of this practice is being able to hold space without judgment. So I was so blessed that in the moments when I was crying so hard and couldn't breathe, I had people like Kathleen and my friends who would hold space for me without judgment, without like, oh, poor Leah, she's going through this horrible thing. What's going to happen? What are you going to do? Oh my God, what are your final? There was none of that. It was just everything's going to be okay. All is well, all is well. And then, of course, my mantra that's outside of animal Reiki, everything always works out for me. And I would tell myself, everything always works out for me. Don't panic. Everything always works out for you. But the power of me being able to do those simple techniques for myself, and also having those people in my life to hold space and help me feel loved, secured, and heard, right? And that is what we do for the animals. That is what we can do for the animals. But when we go to animals that, like, let's say we have an animal that's in a shelter that's come from a hoarding situation, you get that a lot in shelters. They go in, they get the animals for hoarders, and the animals are in all different states of distress. If we go to those animals and we sit and go, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I wonder what happened. Oh, I think this animal suffered from this. Oh, this animal, is pulling back. They were probably beat. Our mind starts to go into all these different directions. We don't know what's true. Even if we're an animal communicator and can find out what's true, we don't want to focus on that. We want to come to the animal completely calm, right? Completely in a space that's centered, and say to the animal, you are loved, you are safe, you are loved, you are safe, because those statements are true. Those statements we can say, and they bring peace. Even when we say them to ourselves, you are loved, you are safe, right? We can feel ourselves even calming down. So before we even go in with traumatized animals, we always want to make sure that we are in a good place. And the simplest way for us to do that, and I'm not sure, Susan, if you've studied with the Let Animals Lead Way, or Louise, if you have either, but the things that we teach are a simple mantra, all is well. And I'm telling you, people, when they take my animal Reiki for Reiki practitioner class, there's like, all is well. This is so what? I thought I was going to learn how to be with animals. Like, this is the first lesson, all is well. This doesn't even make sense. And it's like, trust me, do all is well. So we say, practice saying all is well 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night. And if you think about it, 3 times during the day, just whenever you start to feel a little panicked, a little stressed, all is well, all is well, all is well, because that is the truth. That is the reality. All is well. So after a week of that, my students always come back and say, I thought this was really stupid, but actually, I find that throughout my day, when I start to get stressed, I say, oh, all is well, all is well. And then the next tool we teach are the precepts for today only. Do not worry, or do not anger, do not worry, be humble, be grateful, be honest, and show compassion to yourself and to others. Again, a super passive practice, right? It's just words, right? We're just saying them. We say those 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. But what happens is, and this is the power of this practice, this particular practice, is when we say, for today only, do not anger, do not worry, be humble, be grateful, be honest, show compassion to yourself and to others. We say it 3 times in the morning, at night. Throughout our day, when we get angry, when we get worried, boom, an automatic mindfulness technique pops up. No other meditation practice has that. Like if you do calm or you do headspace, you get into a beautiful calm space. It's so gorgeous. But if someone knocks on the door, or someone interrupts you, or after this beautiful calm space, somebody pisses you off, you're back in that state, right? Whereas with the precepts, you start to get angry, you're all, nope, for today only, do not anger. And what that does is it gives you space between what's happening here and what's happening here. So now you can go, okay, why am I getting so angry? What? Oh, I'm just tired, right? I'm hungry. I'm irritated because of all these other things, right? We can start to identify it. And the same thing happens though when we sit with animals. If we start to feel ourselves become worried, become angry at the situations, like we can say to ourselves, for today only, and we can get our bodies back into that beautiful space of balance. Because what we do isn't some magical thing. We're not like, oh, we were attuned to the let animals lead animal Reiki. Now we can go out and we're like magic fairies. We're spreading fairy dust on every little traumatized animal. No, what we do is within ourselves, we bring ourselves into balance, into peace, into a balanced state. And now when we say, you are safe, you are loved, that is what they feel. There is no anger, there is no worry. We are humble, we are grateful, and we are compassionate in that state. And that is how we can calm down animals who are very freaked out. Now, it's not magic. They aren't going to all of a sudden go, oh, she said this. So now I'm going to be calm. Susan said, I did that with an 11-year-old newly admitted cat who was growling most of the time, and he slowly got to yawns. Exactly. Because when our energy is calm, that is what they're connecting to. And now it's just like putting a hose into you. Now it's like, oh, okay, now I can calm down because we are like a rock. Now, when we are stressed out, our animals at home can sometimes be like oh wait just one second, Louise, I'll get right to that. Sometimes we can be really stressed, and so what do? We go sit with our animals, our cats, our dogs, go out with our horse, and we start petting them or we start talking to them, and all of a sudden now we feel calm because they are a rock. So that is what we can be to traumatize animals. We can be that rock. We can show that peace is possible in every moment. Now they might sit with us, they might calm down, and they might immediately go out of that. They might get it, but we can continue to when we get home. So for those of you who may or may not know about distant Reiki, when we think about an animal, they feel it. So anecdotally, we know this to be 100% true. So when you can go home, you can think about those animals and you can send love. You can send peace. You can send your joyful heart to them, and that will help elevate the situation. When we go into any situation, whether it's with the orcas down in San Diego or whether it's with the shelter animals, when we go in with worry, that is what they feel. And when we go in with anger, that is what they feel. So that is not a loving place to come from. We're coming from a very negative place, right? We've talked about negative and positive mindsets. We're coming from very negative energy, even though we come from a place of love and compassion, right? Oh, I'm so worried about them. What's going to happen? It's worry isn't a loving energy. But if we can switch that within ourselves and say, all is well, all is well. Go to the precepts for today only. Do not anger, do not worry. And just repeat those to yourself until your heart starts to feel relaxed and at peace. And now when you sit with the animal, now they feel relaxed and at peace. So I want to get to Louise says, I understand this. I do communicate with animals, but how can you tell an animal all is well if he or she is near death? Ah, Louise, that's a great question, right? Because even as an animal is getting ready to pass, all is well. We're the ones that are afraid, right? We are the ones that are upset. The animals are going to their next level. We humans are so afraid of death. We want to hang on to death or, to the animal. We don't want them. But what if you knew they were going to the most beautiful, peaceful place where they had no pain, no trauma, nothing? Wouldn't you want to send them off with love and compassion? So it's I love that question because that is when we were probably at our most fearful, is when the animals that we love are passing. Or, I remember one time in a shelter, an animal that I'd been working with, animal Reiki, she had like over a month, she had such a huge transformation. She was a completely different dog. She got adopted out to a really just a woman who didn't know better, and she was using Cesar Millan techniques on this dog when she didn't really have Cesar Millan training. And so people, like when he had that show, they would like to do their techniques, and all it did was traumatize the dog. And so the dog ended up biting her. So she brought the dog back, and then the dog didn't have a muzzle on correctly, and the dog bit a staff member. So now the dog has to get put down, all because of human failure. So I could have been in a place of, oh my gosh, this is so sad. This is so horrible for Minnie. But Minnie had been brought in after 10 years with one woman because the woman's partner didn't like the dog. So Minnie's heart was already broken, and then she got adopted out, and all these things were happening to Minnie. So it served Minnie better for me to say to Minnie, you are loved, you are important, I love you, I see you, you are safe, and have Minnie go out and leave this world feeling love. And isn't that more powerful when our animals are passing, to have them surrounded with love instead of fear? If you're passing, do you want to be surrounded by love, or do you want to be surrounded by fear? There's a huge difference in those energies. And yes, it's very scary. And yes, it's sad when an animal is passing, but we owe it to animals to get a step aside from our human emotions and come to them with love in our heart. And I hope that helps, Louise. And I'll open it up in just a second for more questions. But when Frankie Puma had a fatal illness one day, I was holding him and I started to cry. He reared back and caught my eyes and leapt down, saying, I don't.
And that happens so much, Susan. That happens so, so much that animals will say, no, no, I don't want your tears. I want your love. I want your happiness. Let us sit in this place with joy. So interestingly, something happened a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago. I asked this group, I asked a couple other groups to send Reiki to the orcas at SeaWorld, or all of the orcas in captivity. And what was really interesting is the two animal communicators that were helping facilitate this, they came back and they said, oh, the orcas were really happy to get all this Reiki, but they got confused because they got a lot of waves of sadness, a lot of waves of worry, a lot of waves that were like kind of more negative energy, and they were confused. So it's like, whoa, we have to be so careful when we connect with animals in traumatic situations, because we could be adding to their trauma. Like, imagine you're trying to help animals and you're actually adding to their trauma because you can't get yourself in a good place. And that is why we have these really simple tools. All is well. All is well. Breathe in deep through your nose. Just do it with me. Breathe into your belly, pull it in deep, 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 and then slowly let your breath out your mouth like a straw, like you're blowing out a straw. And then do it again whenever you're ready. Breathing in deep, deeper still, deep as far as you could go, and then slowly breathing that breath out. And let's just do it a couple more times. And feel all tension and stress leave your body with your breath. And now say to yourself as you breathe in and out, just very slowly out your mouth, all is well. All is well. And it brings your energy down. And it may not stop your heart from racing or from your mind from racing. And you can say to yourself, okay, I can sit with an animal maybe, right? And hope I don't go. Or you can say to yourself, I'm going to go to the animal with honesty. You can sit with the animal and say, you know what? I love you. You're safe. If my energy starts to get negative, I'm sorry. I love you. It pains me to see you hurt. I love you. I am going to sit here and say all is well and try, talk to the animal, explain what's happening to you so they know, oh, she's not mad at me. She's not this towards me. Okay. And it could be easier. And then obviously going home, get yourself in a really good place, listen to music that makes you feel good. And now sit and connect with the animals. Say out loud to yourself, I am connecting with this animal or all of these animals, or like all the orca. I'm going to connect with all the orca. And orca, I send you all my love. And you sit in that space. And I guarantee you, you're going to start to feel waves of like, oh, I feel really happy. I feel really joyful. That's the animals connecting to you. That's their beautiful joy. And do practice with the orcas, because their energy is so incredible. It is, I've done it a few times, and it's just, this big balloon. I even feel them with us now. This big balloon of just love and joy, and you almost feel like you're floating with it. It is the most amazing experience. So I want to just cover just a couple little points, and then we're going to open it up because I know we're all going to have a lot of questions about this and situations. You know, the most important thing we want to remember is always going in with love and peace in our heart, right? So really centering ourselves, whether it's with all is well, the precepts, the breath, right? Just breathing into our belly, slowly breathing out our mouth. That's like kind of a portion of the Joshin Kokyo Ho breath or the breath of light that we teach. But you can just do those belly breaths and slowly out. And that helps get you centered, right? So that's something that we can all do, whether we're sitting in front of an animal or whether we're sitting away from an animal. You know, remember when you go to see an animal, like I know a lot of people say, I don't want to go to a zoo because I don't like what's happening to them. It makes me uncomfortable. Think to yourself, those animals need love more than anyone, right? So put your own stuff aside, go in there and just be and share love with them. And know that there's nothing you can do in that moment, right then and there, to change anything. So connect in that beautiful space of love. And when you leave, then make a call. Hey, I noticed that this cage is dirty. Make a bunch of calls. I noticed that this animal didn't have water. That happened recently down in a I don't know if it was a petting zoo or if it was an open zoo type thing, but the animals barely had any water. It was in Arizona, it was warm, and the camel like got so upset, broke out and started to attack people. And thankfully, he did that because then people were able to see that, oh my gosh, this is a really bad situation. So hopefully people went in there. But you know, there's things that you can do afterwards, or there's things you can do before. But when you're in that moment with the animal, remember the only things that matters is your connection and that feeling of love. It doesn't matter anything else because animals are living in that exact moment. And as soon as you connect to them, they feel elevated, they feel lifted, they feel love, they feel peace. It's like someone who comes to you when you're really sad and you're in a really bad situation and they make you feel loved and they say, oh my gosh, I just love being here with you. Now your energy elevates. And that's what we can do for the animals. You know, when we're angry or worried or stressed, we don't change anything. The only way we change and elevate the situation is when we focus on love. Fear, worry, anger, frustration are not loving feelings. Love, joy, peace, those are loving feelings. So I want to open it up to all of you. Gabby and Sherry, welcome. We are so happy you are here. So just raise your hand if you are off camera and you want to talk. Just let me know in the chat, and we will get you answered. So you can. I keep seeing Gabby's got her thing like this, and I keep thinking someone's got their hand up. So if you want to say something, and please do remember, this is a really safe space to ask questions and get them answered. And we all have a lot of experience, so we will all comment. Yes, Louise, please. You have to unmute yourself. There you go, and then we'll get to Susan.
Yeah, one question. This is being recorded, and I know a lot of other places where I saw it was being recorded. When it's put up on Facebook or everything, people are shown asking their questions. So how will you say it's a private space? That's what I just was
Oh, I
wondering.
see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I think it's a private space because we're all here. I mean, we've never had anything negative come through because of Facebook or
I'm just wondering, yeah.
YouTube. Yeah. But you know, that's a really good point. I guess that maybe we would say at the beginning, if you don't want your face shown or your name shown, because you can always change your name too if you don't want
Right,
to,
of course.
and
But
you
yeah,
can
I
take
was
it
just
off.
wondering. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was just
but
wondering if it was different because when I saw it was being recorded.
no, but that's a really good question. And thank you for asking that because I'm sure other people have that question. I think that when we say that it's a safe space, meaning that, you know, we're all here together creating a safe space. And I think that the reason we've never had any negative comments from the outside world is because what we're sharing is just really infused in love and light. But there is always that opportunity, right? There are those haters out there.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I would just say if you don't want your name or your your face shown when asking a question, then you can remove it, turn off your camera. But yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for asking that. So Susan, hello.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
So I have a little story.
Okay.
Frankie Puma was having a very bad day on the 21st day of June, which is the longest day of the year. And it was mid-afternoon, and he came and sat in my lap. He was not a lap cat, but he sat in my lap for a long, long time. And I started doing Reiki with him, and he stopped breathing after I don't know how many hours. And I knew what was happening. So I just held my hands there on his body, and I closed my eyes, and he showed me other cats that I've lived with and other places that I've lived. And then things got really dark, and then there was this muddy tunnel with little lights flashing. And then we opened up to this big, wide, clear, white, open, very peaceful, beautiful white space. And he wasn't breathing. He was gone. And this was 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I got up and I went into bed. I said, okay, I'll bury him in the morning. And in the morning, he jumped up on the bed and said, how about some breakfast, Mom? And I realized that he had showed me this, and I knew what it was because I had just read Eben Alexander's Proof of Heaven. And so I knew what was going on the whole time. And he showed me this because I was crying for years about his illness, about losing him. And he showed me that to tell me that dying was not this horrible, painful, terrible experience, that this was the passage and he will be fine. And so every time I've lost a cat after that, I was like, okay, I know what's going on. They're good. They're peaceful. They're fine. I'm the one who needs to be fine with them.
Yes. You know what? And you know what else I love about that story too is that you were saying like through his illness, you were very sad. And just think about all the times when our animals are ill and we are sad. Because of course, we are sad. But if we can get out of our own way and surround them with love, with peace, with joy, and the appreciation for every moment we have together. Because think about when a human is dying, we're not going to sit there and worry if we know we have some time together, right? We try to make the most of it. And we need to do that with our animals too. We need to make the most of it. Susan, thank you so much. That is so beautiful. And I know all of us are going to keep that in our heart because animals have shown us time and time again there is nothing to fear. There is something so much better on the other side. We are so attached to this very human, painful experience. We're all in so much pain and we're so scared to go on to something better. Elena, I'll get you in just 1 second. So Louise says, yes, thanks, that was helpful, but it's hard to say all is well when the calf in veal production is calling me for help. I send them calmness, peace, but it's hard when I know that they're about to endure torturous slaughter. And that is very true, Louise. That is very true. What we get caught up into is that we get caught up in that pain. So it's happening no matter what we do, right? The slaughter is going to happen. So we owe it to these animals to just surround them in light. The pain is about to end for them, and they are going to be in the light. So we can breathe that precursor. And I know that that is so hard to do.
That's what I try to tell them. It'll
Yeah.
be over soon. The pain will be over soon.
Yeah. And also reminding yourself too, because a lot of times our own pain can kind of color that as well. So we have to remind ourselves the pain is going to be over soon. Love and light, and surround that and be grateful. I'm so glad that you came into this world. You were important. You are important. I love you. And I surround you with love and light. Right. And that's so powerful because we can choose to be negative and say, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is sad. Or we can choose to say, it's happening, but I surround you with love and light. I give you love and light. And then we can stop eating, then that will help end the slaughter. Yes, absolutely. And we can all do our part there too. Thank you, Lisa. Elena, hello. So good to see you today.
Hello, good to see you all. What you were just discussing, and Louise, what you brought up is a connection to what I was going to bring up.
Oh, great.
And considering historically how I would project my emotions when in the presence of someone in another individual's backyard who was about to be slaughtered, and the fear and the anger and the profound sadness that I projected. That's something that we have discussed a lot in my animal chaplaincy program. And I've started to make a lot of connections with animal Reiki, what you have brought up, and how all of these pieces can fit for me to be present with them without projecting my own emotions. And even though I am not okay with what is about to happen, and having that action later on, like you said, but being there with them in that time is something that largely and historically I've not been able to do. And that is now a different story. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, you're on mute.
So what do you find is one of your best tools to really help you stay in that state? Like to be in a more loving, open state for them?
I haven't been in an experience like that in quite a while, where I have been bearing witness to someone who is about to be killed. But in terms of someone who is suffering or who is in a state of hurt, I just return to my own breath and visualize my inner state. And I think that mantra is one that I will definitely continue to practice until I start the level 1 course this summer. But I
Yeah.
think that would be a wonderful addition for me to grow more and more accustomed to. But returning to the breath is my go-to.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think that for people who are new to this too, it's the breath is so important, and all is well. And then, of course, when you take a level 1 animal Reiki course, you learn other tools too. But even when you've taken a level 1 course and you have all these tools, sometimes our simplest tools are our strongest, best tools. And so always remembering that all is well. And I'm going to get to you, Sharice, in just one moment. So Susan said when she told Sammy that the vet was coming to help him cross over, his pain spasms stopped. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Because, we are just so scared of this. And it's our own thing. So we really have to look at ourselves and what our fear about death is. It's not, we don't want to project what we're experiencing, what we're feeling onto these beautiful beings, because they're trying to show us it's okay. They're trying to show us all is well. So we need to mirror that back, right? Therese, it's so great to see you. Who do you have with you this morning?
This is my appendage. This is attached to me 99% of the time. This is Pixie.
Hi, Pixie.
She lives up to the name of that the orange tabbies can be the most temperamental, but she's very attached to me. So I wasn't going to share this, but it's a beautiful topic today, and actually, what everybody has said, it kind of crystallized. 2 weeks ago, I was in Tucson. We were looking for homes. I was in a model home. It had huge windows, and Arizona quail and his friend, one of them flew into the window, like right in front of me. As I was standing there looking out the window, this bird came in, and went down. And, I immediately, sat down, went into the meditation. And it all happened fairly quickly. I was just sitting there, I was doing, Chokure and whatever, just within myself. And I felt him leave. And I opened my eyes and I just felt this feeling that I can't describe, and immediately went into Hansha Seishonen and wished him peace. And it was such a peaceful feeling. And what was funny is when I got up, my husband was there, and he said, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm sorry you couldn't do anything. And I smiled and I said, it wasn't for me to do anything. I feel it was his space. It wasn't my place. And I feel good. I sent him on his way, which even that sounds arrogant. And I didn't mean it that way, but I just felt like I shared that space while he went on his way. And it's stuck with me. It's really stuck with me. And then when this topic came up today about trauma, it's so much for me. I'm learning so much that it's just about the universe is unfolding for the greatest and highest good.
Right.
In whatever that manifestation is. And we cannot try to attach to that outcome. We can just be part of that piece.
I love that. Well, first, I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank you so much for sharing that, because I love it. It's so true. And so Charisse was talking about Honshaze Shonen, which in level 2, you learn how to, so traditionally in Western Reiki, Honshaze Shonen is a distance symbol, but in the Let Animals Lead method and in the traditional, like International House of Reiki teaches this, that it's really the merging of our lights, the lights from our belly, which is like your connection to earth, the light from our third eye, which is our connection to spiritual and psychic awareness, and the light at our heart. And bringing those lights together creates a beam of light within us, right? And that light is what we use to connect. So in that beautiful space of love and light and connection, that is when peace is possible and we can help our animals to let go. So as you progress in the Let Animals Lead method, this is how you do it. And for those that took the Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners course, they also learned the Honshaze Shonen. So Mary Lynn, so thank you so much, Charisse. I really appreciate that. And Diane, I don't know if I said hi to you, Diane Donahue, but hello, so good to see you. So Mary Lynn.
Okay, well, hi everybody. This talk is so timely. Yesterday, when I was at the animal shelter, a little bit before I was leaving, a a call came in that there was a German Shepherd stray, and that this couple had called and got the information and brought her over. And I'm watching this take place with the animal coming in and, resistance, but understandably. And the couple who had found her and kept her overnight were just so loving and charitable. So I'm standing there and I'm saying, and I'm watching what the staff's doing, and they're all terrific. And I'm saying, okay, now is not the time, but before I leave, because they were all, before I leave, I'm going to ask if I can take a picture and from home, speak to her and send her, if she's open to receiving, send her Reiki. And, also I'm thinking to myself, she may not know why she's there, what, and that I think that contributes to the animal's anxiety. So, I want to reassure her that she is loved, and she's in a safe place. Yeah. And I thought, oh, good, tomorrow I can share this, but also reflect on how I felt. And it was, I just felt like it wasn't the time for me to do anything then and there. There was so much going on to get her to register her, to get her in, to be feeling comfortable. But yeah, they were wonderful. I got the picture, and so I will send love and I have a question, if I could ask Elaine. Is that it? Oh, I don't
Oh,
see her.
Elena?
Yeah,
Elena?
Elena.
Uh-huh.
I don't see her.
There she is.
Oh, she's here. Okay.
Yeah.
What is she mentioned? What animal chaplaincy? What is that? I don't know what that is.
So I provide supports for human and animals who need compassion and care if they're experiencing grief, after a loss has occurred, when a loss is about to occur, and in other ways.
Oh, so
Elaine,
the loss
go
is
ahead.
about them losing their caretaker, their caregiver.
The animal passing away.
Oh, the animal. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So when
Oh,
you
oh.
lose an animal, Mary Lynn, and you're
Mhm.
in a very, dark place, Elena helps with that. She has a really beautiful, Elena, why don't you put your website in the chat if you don't mind, if you're
Sure.
open to that. She has a really beautiful website and she offers some really wonderful services, including just like a little memorial that you can do for your animal. So really grateful to Elena
Oh,
for all she does for the animals and
yeah,
for the
thank
people.
you.
Right. Yeah, it's go check
Yeah.
it out because she offers some really wonderful services. Gabby, so good to see you. Hello.
Nice to see you as well. I have to figure it out. I'm on my phone here.
I know it's hard.
Yeah. It's like everywhere else. Yeah. So my little addendum here about is also about a cat passing, and I got this job, distant Reiki. The lady lives in Hawaii, and she has 6 cats, and they were all feral, and she rescued them, and they live with her, and they are very, very lucky. And her cat Armani, I was supposed to give him Reiki, distant Reiki. And the first time I gave it to him, I was feeling really nauseous. And I was like, okay, probably something with his kidneys. What's going on? And then eventually I found out he had failing kidneys and he wasn't eating properly. So she is a very, very generous lady. And I gave him 5 times a week distant Reiki, and he just loved it. And I was always supposed to tell him, and I did, that his mom liked him very, very much. And she would just like him to be around more longer. And it would be so nice if he would eat a little bit more and drink his water and all that. So we did that for like 2 months. And then I had a trip coming up going to Mexico to see the gray whales. And I'm like, distant Reiki also works from Mexico. So she was fine with it. And then I'm there. And this one day was a Thursday. It just came over me, and I was like, he is not doing so well. He just is not. And I basically spent the whole session singing to him. And in between, I told him, Armani, your mom loves you very, very much, but you also have to know you have free will. And then I sang to him again and chanted, and that was our session. And then the next day, that was one of the days where he doesn't get Reiki. And then on Saturday, I tuned into him again, and I couldn't find him. But I gave him the whole session, and then I always afterwards write to the client what happened, and she wrote back in the evening that he had passed in the morning.
Oh.
So
Oh.
I was really feeling he needed to be allowed to
Yeah.
pass over. Yeah,
That happens a lot. The animals want to hang on for us, which is
they
another
do.
reason why we have to really be careful about what we're feeling. And if we're holding on and preventing them from leaving, that's happened to me before animal Reiki. But also, I think that, like you said, allowing them, giving them that permission, whether I've talked about that too, like for dogs in the shelter, cats in the shelter, you could tell them, empower them. You can pick who you want to go home with. You can do this.
Right.
But also, I loved what you said about distance. So when we talk about distance, for those of you who have studied more Western Reiki, it's about sending something out. But the way we do it is we focus on our heart energy in the most simplest terms. We're focusing on our heart energy and we're just sending that energy out, right? That is what distant Reiki is. So you're sending out your love, you're sending out peace, you're sending out joy, you're sending out positive emotion. And sometimes if you want to help animals that are traumatized, go home, get yourself in a really safe, comfortable position, and then just focus on the animals and focus on love, focus on peace, focus on joy, happiness. They want us to be happy. They love that energy of happiness. So focus on that, and you can help the animals a lot that way as well. So Lisa, it's so good to see you. We haven't seen you in a while.
I know my work schedule is crazy,
That's
but
okay. We are glad you're here
when I
now.
can. So listening to what people have said, I just would love to throw this anecdote out there and maybe get some advice for the next time. I'll try to keep it very short. I had we had a cat, Amos, a little black cat, who was definitely my soulmate. And several years ago, was during the pandemic, he had kidney disease, and then we also found out that he had cancer, and he was on his way out, and he had made it very, very clear that he wanted to die at home, that he wanted to go at home. And that was great. I was totally fine with that. But the night that it turned out to be his last night was a very, very difficult night. And he was suffering greatly. And in the middle of the night, I was lying in the bathtub with him on my chest and just trying to stay, calm and centered. And although I did know Reiki techniques at the time, they were just failing me because I was so wrapped up in this. And I knew that he was leaving, and I was fine with that. What I didn't want was for him to suffer. And we ended up rushing him to the emergency clinic just to try to help him to feel a little better. It turned out to be a really stupid thing and a huge mistake. And we ended up bringing him back home. And the next morning, he actually went, finally, when I left the room, I had to go pee. And for that 1 minute that I was gone, that was when he left. And, that's no big surprise. But anyway, I guess what I would love is to get maybe some input from people about how do you balance being in a place of love and holding space for the animal, but wrestling with the fact that they are physically suffering as they are leaving. That was what killed me with this. And I would love to have animals go at home in the future, but I don't want them to suffer.
Yeah. And that's, we make mistakes, or maybe they're not even mistakes. It's something, again, it's how we're feeling, right? They are suffering. We have a lot of compassion for our animals. So of course we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to suffer. And sometimes it's part of the process. Sometimes it's just part of that dying process. This is where also it helps to have a community like this, where you can say, my animal is passing, could you please send Reiki or send support? And that's where they on Facebook, there's the Animal Reiki Healing Circle, I think, and you can go on there and join and get animal Reiki for your animals. So that's one thing you can do. So Liza and Sharice, do you have more to say about what Lisa is saying, or do you? Okay, Liza, did you have? Okay, great. I'll get to Liza first, Sharice, since she hasn't talked yet, if you don't mind. Thanks. So Liza, please.
There we go. Yeah, I recently, first, thank you everybody for everything you've shared today. This is really great conversations we're having. So I recently had a friend whose cat has been sick. They recently had assisted him to cross over. I watched him very, very quickly decline, and he went from you know, this cat that was playing with his sibling cat, and all of a sudden, just like within a matter of weeks, got really skinny. And I'm over at their house usually a couple of times a week, and so I just knew that something was up, and you know, I had to allow them, one, to deal with it however they wanted to. I probably would have done it differently, but that's not my place, right?
Right.
And so I just had to honor how they were taking care of their animal, love their animal dearly. And I just held space for him every time I was there. Whenever I was at home doing Reiki, I just held that space, and saw him as his most beautiful, bright self. And the whole all is well, even though, you know, in our human minds, we're seeing him as sick and, you know, frail. And I didn't see him that way. I just saw his beautiful light that he was within. And I talked to them on Sunday, and they said they were going to take him in to help him transition on Monday. So Sunday, I just held space for him again, let him know how much I loved him and how much his family loved him. And I wasn't sure what time, and I didn't want to bother them too much because I knew that they were going through a lot. And so just throughout the day on Monday, I just held space. And every time I held space on Monday, I just felt this total peace within. So yeah, it can be really hard, but with practice, it gets easier. You know, after I've been doing this for a long time, started studying Reiki with Kathleen ago. And so, I mean, it's still hard, not to say it's not hard, but it does get easier to hold that space and see them as their bright, beautiful, bright light.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Liza. You know, I had the same situation. I had a little disabled dog, and she passed very young. And she passed, I was actually in Vermont at the time, and my partner took her into the emergency vet, and they had her all wired up, and it just wasn't going to be good. And she was in a lot of pain. She was suffering. My partner was just distraught. So I was trying, you know, to hold space for all of us. And it was weird because I'm not the type of person that gets messages or feelings or anything. But when she passed, because she was always disabled, when she walked, she would shake. She could kind of bunny hop eventually from just being eating, like, I'm gonna make a plug for Rockster dog food. It's an amazing dog food. She was on Rockster for a year, and she got really strong, but she had this complication that happened, and so she ended up passing. But when she passed, I knew the minute she did, because I felt this warmth go through me, and all of a sudden, just this image of her running, like doing zoomies as fast as she could, and I'm like, oh my God, she passed. It's just another reminder that, like we've heard today, is just that there's peace on the other side. Sometimes there's a struggle before that peace, and it's okay. The struggle is okay. We have to be okay with it, though, right? So, Lisa, there have been comments about you have an animal communicator. It's not always possible to have an animal communicator present, but if you can, that is something. Having somebody who does animal Reiki hold space for you is another option. Also, just calling people and saying, could you please hold space for us? And that kind of relieves you of that burden. Because, you know, I asked I was with Kelly McDermott Burns, who's the Sarah director at the time. She was in the car with me, so she was holding space, right? So we're both holding space for Reba. And then, you know, as we're holding space, I said, Kelly, I'm sure she's passed, because that's what I felt. And then my partner texted me and said she had passed. So, you know, having somebody there, or a few somebodies, to hold space during those difficult times is really, really important. So, Elaine, I'll get to you just a second. We only have a few more minutes because we are coming to time, and I did want to do a short meditation. But Sharif, you said that you had this question, the theme of suffering and causing suffering and not wanting to see them suffer. I'm in the animal hospice practitioner course. Oh, nice. But I struggle with the end of the life time span and the suffering we cause by invasive testing or rides to the vets or causing discomfort. Yeah, we cause suffering. Yeah, I've had I never find peace that sense with it, and it's true. And thank God we live in the world of mobile vets, so they come to your house. There's that option. Sometimes we don't have a choice; we have to take them in. But again, if we can be okay, right? This is where our practice is so important. That's why we say all is well every single day, multiple times a day, because during difficult times, we can tap into that. We go, okay, That space is right there for you to just tap into and acknowledge. Whereas if we only do this once in a while, or when we kind of think about it, it's not going to help us in the long run. It's not going to help us when we need it the most. So do the practice, do the precepts, do the breath, do that, and then you'll be well. So really quickly, Elena, and then we'll do our closing meditation.
Oh, you just brought up what I was going to mention. Reaching out to someone else to hold space, whether that's someone else who practices animal Reiki, an animal communicator, an animal chaplain. Having those go-to individuals is huge. So
thank you so much for that. And Susan so generously offered up her website, and it'll be up in a few days. And she said, feel free to ask her to hold space. And I know that all of us here are on the Animal Reiki Healing Circle. I think most of us are. And that is a really wonderful place. It's free to join. Anyone can join. You just put a picture of your animal or yourself and then ask for healing and support. So we are coming to the end. I just want to say quickly before we get to our meditation, thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. Sherry and Louise and Susan, thank you so much for coming. It's the first time here, so we really appreciate that. And yes, we will all offer Reiki to Sally, the German Shepherd, and hold space for Gloria. So Diane, who's here, Diane is, hey Sherry, so great to see you. Diane has her own little animal rescue, and she's so amazing. And she has a disabled little dog who can't walk, and she has to wear a diaper, and she's going through some tough times. So if you can please all hold space for her, and we'll just dedicate this meditation to her. Thank you so much, Diane, for bringing that up. So Sandra, so great to see you. Beth, thank you so much for coming. Mary Lynn, Sherry, Diane, Wilma, Gabby, Lisa, so good to see you. Liza, Sharice, always a pleasure to see you. Beth, Maud, thank you. And Elena, thank you so much for your advice. So now we are going to, and then Susan gives us, to save the chat, if you all want to save the chat, because I know Elena put her site on here too, you'll look in the chat box where they have like the little emoji icons. There's 3 dots. You can click on those 3 dots and click save chat, and that will save the chat for you. So in where it says, type your message here, you see the little different icons. There's a smiley face, 3 little dots, and you click on those, save chat, and that way you can save the chat for today. So we're going to do a short meditation, but it is a meditation that I like to do to help me feel good in my body and always gives me a smile on my face. This is a fun one that we're going to end on today. So we're going to close our eyes, block out all distractions. We're going to bring our hands into prayer pose, into Gasho, and we're going to set our intent that we're open to receive whatever it is that we need most of this time. And we're setting our intent that we dedicate this meditation to all sentient beings. And we dedicate this meditation to Gloria, to the sweet German Shepherd that Mary Lynn brought up, to all the animals that we talked about today that have passed and that might be ill. And we hold them all in this beautiful space we're creating together. And so whenever you're ready, you can put your hands face up or face down on your lap. And I just want you to focus on your breath, breathing in through your nose, pulling your breath deep into your belly, and then slowly releasing that breath out your mouth. And just a few more breaths, breathing in love and light, and releasing all stress and tension you're holding on to. Any worries from the day start to disappear. And feel your shoulders drop, your jaw relax. Now I'd like you to bring to mind something that brings you immense joy, something that might make you laugh. For me, it's bunnies. I can't even say the word bunnies without smiling. So bring that word, that feeling, that maybe it's a location or a person to your mind, and smile really, really big, as wide as you possibly can, focusing on this beautiful feeling of love and joy that you get from your word, from the animal. For me, it's bunnies, from the person or the location. And just really feel yourself feel so much joy and love. Smile big. And now I want you to slowly bring your mouth to neutral and just focus on your breath. And you could feel there might even be like a little heaviness on your heart. So we bring back that word that we love, that word that brings us joy, or that animal, person, or place, and smile really big and feel all that love and joy, and allow it to infuse your body, infuse your heart, and keep smiling big. And just focus on your breath and focus on, for me, bunnies, and feel that joy. Feel that happiness just cursor through your entire body. And then you open your eyes, and we'll end on this really high note, knowing that love and joy is just a breath away. No matter what we're feeling, no matter what we're experiencing in our day, we can always come back to this space. Thank you all so much for being here, for all your support and love and all your questions. We love you. And again, Susan and Sherry and Louise, thank you so much for coming and joining us. And we hope to see you again soon. Sandra, so glad to finally see you again. I've missed you. Mwah. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye.